Hey beautifuls, I'm doing an energy update. Check it out. Check it out. I said I wasn't doing them anymore. Well, I don't know if I said that. I've been recalibrating with them, that's for sure. All right, so looks like half my head's cut off for some reason. Just let me pull this up a bit. Yes, that's better. Perfect. All right, so energy update, here we come. And there's a couple more things actually, isn't there, that I put on this, because I'm literally, sometimes I think I'm literally going crazy, and apparently I was wrong with some things. And I want to talk about this because this is important, so important. So as always, let me share this and I shall be present with you. However, while you're waiting for me to share this, let me know if this is the first time to my live stream, and also let me know how you've been feeling, because the energies have been really, really hard. Let me just say that. Really expansive, really hard, really like WTFs as well, obviously, as you've seen me go through this week too. So I want to talk about that and just let you know that you're not alone, because there's a lot of people that have been going a little bit crazy. And then some other really interesting things that I've been reflecting on, that I've realized that sometimes I think I'm going crazy when actually no, I'm just feeling the energies. And this is a big part of trusting your intuition. Okay, let me share this. Hang on. Let me be present with you. Hi, Sean. Hello, hello. Okay, let me pop this in. How good's I got my office back? I'm like live streaming heaps again and stuff. It's awesome. I'm like, oh my God, why did this ever change? This is crazy. Crazy things are going on. Hi, Katrina. All right. Sweet. And I bring up the comments here as always. I've been filming ear chakra consciousness, so I'm very being energy. that's the ear chakra consciousness energy. It's just, I'm very present. Brings you back to reality, right? Okay. All right, so Shan says she's struggling. Yeah, there's a lot of people struggling. There's a lot of people that are very emotional. There's a lot of people that are hurting themselves. There's a lot of people, and so there's a lot of people on that web, and then there's a lot of people that are in quite a good space, right? So yeah, let me speak to this. Okay, hi, hello everybody joining live, awesome. Okay, so let me just speak to the energy update first, and that ties into, here I am thinking that I'm going crazy, and then also, you know, how that is trusting your intuition, and then leading into apparently I was wrong. So energy update is the sense that okay, I know this doesn't apply to the whole world. However, when I'm showing things, it's a big thing, right? In a sense of like, it has been extremely windy here for the past few days. Like I'm talking like extremely windy, like, oh my God, like just crazy windy. Well, I think yesterday and today especially, I don't know about the day before, but it was still going on today, and I'm like, whoa, this is, when it's like super windy like that for ages, do you know what it feels like? Even though I don't really know what it feels like, but what it, I guess, energetically and intuitively feels like is, if we look at our solar system and our Earth in our solar system and our galaxy, and it's traveling, and our whole universe is traveling through the cosmos, right? When it's super windy like that, it feels like we're traveling through a portal. If you know that sense of sound that sometimes you can feel here, very chakra consciousness, and it's your chakra consciousness week, that we can feel here, like if you can imagine when it goes through a portal, it's like or something, I don't know. So when it's been really windy, it's really windy where you are too, Michelle. When it's really windy, to me it feels like literally going through a portal, or literally going through a vortex or something, and on a global scale, though, is what I feel. And so you know how like sometimes we have a solar storm, and that can really affect our geomagnetic like fields, our magnetic fields, and you know, our energy and stuff like that when it's really windy. And I think, and I personally feel intuitively, that galactically we're going through some sort of portal vortex. We're really shifting through something. And it's interesting, I think someone even posted in my Reality Awareness support group that they feel like something's going to happen. I'm just going to bring that up. I did see that this morning and I haven't got back to comments yet. So just seeing if I can see that quickly here. I think, yeah. Oh, so the headaches. Other people have been getting a lot of headaches. I'm not sure if you've been getting headaches, sort of neck, shoulder tension as well. A lot of people have been going through like feeling the headaches and stuff too. Let's see. Yeah, so someone in my Reality Awareness support group said that I'm in a strange place in my life. It's so hard to explain, but it's like I'm waiting for something to happen. I can't say if it's negative or positive. And so sometimes it's like we don't know if it's negative or positive, but it feels like at the moment we're about to pop out the other side. And if we look at the windy and the full like energetic vortex that it feels like we're traveling through, it's literally like we're going to pop out the other side, right? So Katrina says we had our first dirt cyclone go through our backyard today, nice and windy. Yeah, so lots of people, right, can come in and then go. Is that like through the vortex, TV? So it's like this, it's gonna pop or something's gonna happen. And that feeling comes from, yes, I feel like if we're traveling through something galactically, for sure, but also that feeling is that you're going through a big transformation. You're about to pop through the other side. You're going through this vortex of change at the moment, right? The headaches and the lots of frequent headaches, lots of neck and shoulder tension. So number one, of course, make sure you're drinking lots of water. During this time of big eclipses and the energy vortex energy, so to speak, and the galactic travel that we're going through. And so the other thing too, if you can imagine going through a cyclone, it's going to stir everything up, right? Wind stirs everything up. Energetic, let's call them galactic cyclones, right, are going to stir everything up. And so these cyclones that are stirring everything up, these galactic storms, if you may, in your body, if you can imagine your aura, that cyclone is going to literally like blow everything out of your aura. All the old traumas are going to come up. Everything's coming up. Neck aches and stuff like that. So on a collective level, we're really awakening to the truth. Yeah, we're in the ear chakra consciousness, not just for this week, but I'm also filming ear chakra consciousness, and as reality awareness grounds in this information onto the planet, that's also having an effect. So the ear chakra consciousness shifts through the neck, the shoulders, and the heart is being activated and awakened as everybody's starting to see the truth of the reality. Reality is hitting home. Home is where the heart is where the grief is stored, and a lot of people being closed off to that. We're in ear chakras, it's softening, it's opening. It's going to bring up the things that have been in the subconscious. It's going to bring up the things that have not been seen before, which sometimes that truth and the reality hitting is sometimes a harsh reality to face. That brings up feelings, okay? So the headaches and stuff, obviously check your water intake, right? But not just your water intake, check your mineral consumption as well. So minerals help our body and the electrolytes, so coconut water, sometimes the salted water in like the mineral salts, taking a mineral supplement, lemon juice and water, lemon juice, honey and water is like one of the biggest things to restore the minerals back to your body as well and help with the hydration. So really important to make sure you're drinking lots of those sorts of liquids as well, and obviously drinking enough water. I always have a big bottle of water, and I make sure I drink it like 1.5 liters to 2 liters a day. Like if I don't have that, I don't feel normal. So make sure you're drinking lots of water, of course, but lots of the electrolytes into your body as well. So on another energy update aspect, there has been a lot of emotions. Yeah, lots and lots of emotions. I think it's, I'm just going to double check the name correctly. So Pam Leo. No, it's Pam Gregory. is Pam Gregory. That's who I watch on YouTube. Not all the time, but when I feel called to, I watch. So Pam Gregory, getting her name correct on this live stream. So the other one that I watched, I don't know, the other week or something, she did say astrologically we're coming up to something in Pisces. I just remember the emotions that this connected to Pisces, and so lots of emotions, lots of flowing, lots of crying, lots of releasing. So as you see the truth, things are being activated, and on a collective level, a lot of people are realizing a lot of people are dying from all the things that are happening in the world, and all those things that we talk about, well, we don't talk about, we talk about. So there's a lot of grief that's starting to hit through. There's a lot of energetic shifts happening with a lot of people leaving the planet, with a lot of DNA shifting as well, and plus our eclipses coming, and we've got the full moon coming up next week as well, which is another eclipse. So being super conscious that there's all these, you know, big energetic shifts going on. So yes, to blow it all away, that's right, to blow it all away, to be able to see it. So if you're feeling emotional, if you're feeling like going crazy, if you're feeling angry, please know that these are very normal emotions to be feeling right now. There's a lot of big things shifting in reality, and for your reality to shift, sometimes we need to face some really uncomfortable emotions. That's what's coming out, that's what's shifting, this is what's happening, right? So I want to say too, sometimes I literally think I'm going crazy. So last night I was really like teary as well and crying. I had a really big cry before I went to bed again last night. I felt really weird. Like I went food shopping and felt really weird, and I came home and I was just like, I felt weird. And then I was just bawling my eyes out crying when I got to bed. And you know, and this weekend, if you saw my live stream like a couple of days ago, like with the snakes and all the animals and just, oh my God, everything that's been going on, this big vortex of change, right? This big cyclone of change. There's all these things going on, right? And like over that last week, I was literally like going crazy. Like, I'm like, what is happening here? And so it's really like interesting to me, because sometimes when I'm in it, when we're in it, it's the hardest, right? When we're in it and we're emotional and we're a mess, that's the hardest, yeah? And that's when we need the most support, but it's the hardest point and we don't even know what to do to shift it, and we're just in it, right? And we can literally feel like we're going crazy. Well, I have at times, yeah? Now, with that in itself, like, you know, and then I did that live stream, and I even said the other day as well, or yesterday, whenever it was, I was just like, man, and then I like have all this almost shame come up, because I'm like, did I really just share all that? Am I really that vulnerable? Like, did I really just share that? Like, I shouldn't have shared that, had I? Like, you know, but I know I have to. And then I'm just like, And I think what part of it is I'm just like, man, people must think I'm crazy. And that's okay in a sense. But at the same time, I'm just, that's what I was sharing with my client this morning. The things that come up is like, I don't have it all together. I'm not as good as them, or other people that I see online, or other mentors or whatever. I'm like, they've got it all together. I don't. Like, you know, all this stuff comes up for me, right? Or we see these people living these amazing lives or whatever it is, and we just feel like we're not good enough. And it's not that we have to be like them, but it's almost like, man, I'm an emotional wreck. How are they not? Or how you never see them like that. And so you kind of think something's wrong with you, right? This is what's been going through for me. And, you know, and then I come back and I feel like I've had a big shift, and I'm like, cool, you know, and it's just, I go through this process, right? And I literally think I'm going crazy. Now, what's interesting to me, and this happened in January, right? And I was talking to my client about this morning, because we were having a conversation, and this happened in January to me, where I felt like I was losing my mind. There's all this emotion coming up. I was having a big shift. I was going through something energetically, collectively. There was big stuff shifting as well, right? Now, on the other, like, flip side of that, I saw another top entrepreneur. This is back in January, and they had like this big head-on collision. Now, there's no judgment to anything that I'm about to say, right? But what's really interesting to me is that sometimes I feel like I'm too emotional, or I'm too much, or I judge myself for the level of emotions that I feel, etc. Now, I don't stay in that space long, but that, like I said, what that comes in is that I see all these other people and I'm like, oh, I have to have it together, or oh, like, you know, it crosses my mind, right? But I'm just like, this is who I am. I feel my emotions, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's really interesting to me is that this is what's this week, just last week, like I said, I felt like I was going crazy and I shared all the things, and it's just like, man, does anyone freaking go through this level of stuff? Like, come on, right? And then like I saw another top entrepreneur this week, like have a fall and like seriously hurt herself, and like my heart goes out to her, and I'm like sending her all this love and whatever. I freaking love that woman. And again, this is no judgment or anything, because everyone processes stuff differently. And this is what really dawned on me this morning when I was talking to my client about. It was just like, you know, like sometimes I feel like I'm losing the freaking plot. Sometimes I think I'm so emotional and I can't stop crying and I'm bawling my eyes out. Like I said, when we're in it, we're just like, oh my God, what's going on, right? Now, I don't see other top entrepreneurs do that, right? Well, not, you know, like just, you know, whatever. Like I don't really know them personally or anything. And I'm not just talking one or two in particular. I'm just talking in general, right? Or modern society in general. Like we don't see people losing it. Or sometimes I judge myself because sometimes I'm so emotional or I'm processing something that's massive and I'm just like this chaotic mess, right? Just like what I said on the live stream. I'm like, who fucking goes through that stuff? Now, what's interesting to me is then I see people have car accidents or, you know, seriously hurt themselves, or like something big happens, like they're in hospital or whatever it is, right? And I'm just like, oh. And what's interesting to me is that, and this is what dawned on me this morning or whenever, when I was talking to my client, I was like, it almost like, I want to say, takes all the pressure off the fact that I'm going crazy, or it takes all the like judgment out of like, I'm so emotional. Like it's not something that I think about. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like I sit here and going, oh honey, you're so emotional. Like I don't say that to myself, but I'm just conscious that I feel so fucking deeply. And I cry. When I cry, I howl, like at times, depending on what it is, right? I'm very deep with the way that I feel and process things like so intricately and deeply, right? Now, you hear me say like time and time again, like I rarely get sick. Like I rarely get sick. Like I don't. And I know, and I've known this over many, many years, and the same, and it's like I want to say a mirror image with my daughter, because I do aware parenting with her and she feels all her emotions, right? We rarely get sick. Like I see kids get sick, or I see people get sick, or I see them hurt themselves, or whatever like that. And you know, and for me, like we rarely experience that. And I know that's because I feel so deeply, so intricately. Like sometimes I'm a chaotic mess. Sometimes I'm crying like so just for ages or deeply, or just like this curling up in a ball and just howling, like, you know what I mean? But that's actually my immune system. That's actually me feeling consciously, right? This is lepidolite. This is my purpose crystal, actually. This is me feeling the reality of whatever it is that's going on, whether it's collective, whether it's something personal, whether it's whatever. This is me feeling reality. This is me feeling the emotions, right? Any physical ailment stems from bottled up emotions that get stored in the body in any way, which shape or form. So even like car accidents or ending up in hospital with some accident or whatever like that, for me personally, that's still the same as a bottled up emotion. It is. It's a wake up call in some way, shape or form. It really is, right? It's something that has been buried and suppressed and is like hitting reality and needs to be shifted out. Nothing is bad or right or good or wrong here, right? It's just understanding the energetics of it, yeah? So when you feel like you're going crazy, or you're so emotional, or you're a mess, right? Really understand that you're consciously feeling. And when you're in it, it's the hardest thing. It's sometimes the hardest thing. There's a lot of people who do not feel. And they zip it up and they bottle it up and they carry on, and then something hits them to wake them up and they need to deal with it, right? In whichever way, shape or form, right? I'm so precisely, acutely clear on that. This is my gift. I can pick apart the depths of all these pieces, right? And this is where I teach in Trust Intuition, to be able to understand and intricately understand all these pieces, right? So sometimes when you feel like you're going crazy, or you're in this great emotional mess, You have to remember that you are healing and you are consciously feeling the energies, whether it's collectively, whether it's something personal, whether it's both interlinked, because usually it is, right? It's a reflection out there and it's a reflection in here, right? But if you're consciously feeling instead of bottling it up, you're going to be able to pass through it, even though you're just like, wow, just like when I came off that live stream the other day and I was just like, oh my God, Hannah, did you just share all that? Because it is like so vulnerable and deep, and like, who the hell goes through that? And just, oh my God, like, welcome to my reality. Like, this is my world, you know, but this is where really I feel to understand. I feel to heal. We feel to shift through things. Yeah. So that's number one of the energy update. And I'm just going to pull a card to see what the cards have to say about what I just shared, right? Like, I don't know, confirmation. Do I need that right now? Let's have a look. This one. The violet flame. This is confirming that I'm pretty sure I'm starting to remember these cards. I'm pretty sure this is about psychic protection, clearing your energy, understanding what's in your field and energy, which this is where I teach and trust intuition. Your aura, right? Your aura has all these things stored, and if you're not dealing with them, they'll store in your physical body. Okay, and this violet flame from memory, and I'll check in the book in a sec, is really being conscious of what's in your field, what is moving through that, right? And when we are moving through this is where I'm talking about when you're bawling your eyes out crying, right? You're actually dissolving this. It's dissolving, it's transforming. If you don't, this is where it hits into reality, right? Now, you don't always have to bawl your eyes out to consciously feel something, right? But at the same time, I want to say 90% of the time we do. And not many people do that, right? But as an empath, we're usually pretty good at crying. Otherwise, we've got this really hard wall up from holding it in so long, and then we're exhausted and got all these physical ailments and just this black mess of like mud mop stuff, right? That we start to clear our energy and we start to become clearer and clearer and clearer. Yeah. So Haley says, if I show emotion, my kids lose it at me. That's because you're triggering their grief. You're triggering their unfelt grief. So a lot of people are uncomfortable with crying with kids. Like, you know, sometimes the baby's like crying and the kids are like, you know, everyone's like, oh, stop. Why? Because it's triggering their own grief. It's triggering all the buried stuff, right? So Leanne says, sometimes it feels like I'm going to die from how deep I feel. So huge sometimes. Yeah, exactly right. And this is where in Trust Intuition, we learn to ride these waves. We learn to ride these emotions, because if you don't know how, this is where people actually leave the planet. This is where people pick up the drink or the pill or whatever, or, you know, to suppress that. And then it just loops back around into this cycle. Okay. Yes, so Rachel said adults have told me to stop crying too. Yes, because it triggers their grief, right? I want to say it triggers their grief, but they also don't know what to do with it. They're just taught from a young age that we suppress, that we put a dummy in, we move, we shh them. That carries into adulthood. So any other adult, we just want to, it's okay, you don't need to cry. It's okay. That's what they were told when they were this big. Welcome to society, right? Welcome to society that we are transforming. So what cards are they? These are the Beyond Lemuria, yeah, by Izzy Ivy. I know that's back to front. I didn't turn the camera around for this live stream. Rachel thought of the violet flame last night. Yes. Diane says, I tend to hold my breath and I'm constantly reminding myself to breathe. Yeah, so when we hold our breath, that traps the feeling. Right, so when we're in shock, or, you know, if there's something, the first thing we do, we all go like this, right? And that's what holds that in the aura. It's almost like it tears the aura and pulls it in and sits there. And then we're like, and that's what sits here. And then it starts to attract. It's like a magnet that attracts all these things, yeah? So Haley says, yep, and my mum has taught them that being emotional is a form of weakness. Yeah, and so you're teaching them something else now, yeah? Usually what I say is it's safe to cry. It's normal to cry. It's like tears supposed to come out. It's like supposed to. Yeah. Which I know you're probably teaching them anyway. So Leanne says, I guess realistically we could die if we didn't get out, as this is how disease is created. Exactly. And the other important thing is remembering when we're in that emotion and we feel like we want to die, or we are dying, or we feel like death, we have to remember there is a part of us that is dying. There is a part of us that is releasing from our body. There is a part of us that is moving to another place, like dissolving. Like a part of us is dying, and in that dying we are reborn. Yeah, it's like that cycle. Yeah, a cycle of life that we're just in this 3D dimension, unfortunately. It's how we learn to ride these cycles, ride these waves. Yeah. Okay, so Dana Murder says, hey beautiful, I'm always telling my daughter and the kids I work with to cry and let it out. Yes, so good, so good. Yes, love Izzy Ivy. Yes, she's beautiful. Been crying loads this last few weeks. Yeah, lots of tears through the through the eclipse season right now. Lots and lots of tears coming out. It's a thing at the moment, right? And the eclipses are very much into the past life stuff. So there's a lot of old ancient stuff surfacing, a lot of old ancient emotions from soul, body, muscle memory coming out, right? It's very deep what's coming out at the moment. Okay, so let's just have a look at the violet flame, and then I'm going to talk about apparently I was wrong. It makes me laugh. So the violet flame, yeah, I'm starting to learn these cards. So the violet flame, your psychic toolkit, I think I pulled this the other day. Recentering practices, deepening your energetic awareness, clearing your aura, healthy energetic boundaries, protection, removing trauma from your field, what we've been talking about, maintaining a high vibration. There's a little bit of a contradictory statement around maintaining a high vibration. If you remove trauma from your field, you naturally vibrate higher because the trauma is a heavy, lower vibration, right? So that's why like high vibe doesn't work all the time if you're full of trauma in your system, you know what I mean? It can be harder to hold that vibration. Rebalancing after times of raised frequency. So sometimes when we're in a high frequency, we're doing all these high vibe things, that's when the trauma comes up, and that's why we're like, this stuff doesn't work, and it's just because this has come up and it doesn't feel good, and so then we need to deal with this, which again is what I teach in Trust Intuition. So Trust Intuition, we start soon. So we're starting in, I don't know, less than 2 weeks now, I think something like that, almost 2 weeks. And this is where we dive in for 10 weeks. We're going in through all of this stuff so that you can trust intuition, clear out this stuff, and being able to shift out the trauma. You become lighter, you become more psychic, you become clearer, a clearer vessel. When you remove the trauma from your aura and from your body, you become a clearer channel, a clearer vessel. You're not exhausted all the time, like all those things, right? It's a big deal. So just see what jumps out at me. Your sensitivity is heightening. Yes, definitely. And it's like it says, we can learn to protect and maintain the energy we cultivate in ourselves, not from fear, but through a healthy awareness of what is ours and what is the energy of others. And that's the thing, right? So when we are crying or feeling like a mess, we can be feeling the collective, we can be feeling our stuff. Usually there's both, right? And it's like learning to decipher what it is. And then, you know, do we need to clear out more? Is it done? Like all that sort of stuff. And again, this is what we dive into in Trust Intuition for sure. So what are your thoughts about PTSD? That's the trauma stuck in the system. So working to release the trauma out of the system relieves and removes the PTSD symptoms. It's just a symptom of trauma stuck in the body, yeah, or aura, and or both. Psyche, whole thing. Yes, a lot of past life wounds. Yes, definitely. So April says, how do you get yourself to cry if you know that's what will help you, but you just can't seem to cry? So a couple of things. Number one, feeling safe. If you do not feel safe, you're not going to cry. So that can stem deep from childhood stuff. So a lot of people have grown up in the era of stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, and we get belted if we keep crying, or, you know, start crying or something. Like threats, you know, or just stop crying, you don't need to cry, you know, only Sukis cry, or, you know, all that sort of stuff can be really there. So we don't feel safe to cry because that's just ingrained from inner child stuff. So number one is feeling safe. Number two, you can watch like sad movies that make you cry, or listening to music that you know makes you cry. like that sort of stuff on purpose. But the number one thing is feeling safe. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to cry. The other thing as well is working in with your menstrual cycles. So, you know, like that 10 days before you bleed, when you feel the hormone shift, that's when, you know, we're more emotional. So really working with those cycles. So they're the times to really watch the movies and stuff like that, you know, make you cry. But yeah, number one, you have to feel safe. Yeah. And that there's lots of things we can do to create safety. It's what we learn in module 1 of Trust Intuition as well. So if you don't feel safe, you don't have those resources, if you don't feel supported, you can't clear out the deeper trauma either. Yeah. You've done a couple of past life meditations. Of course you have. Dana Murda is like right on point with the eclipses. Yeah, perfect. All right. So apparently I was wrong. So some of you might have seen the other day, and I was going to live stream about it, but I just didn't. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need to talk about it, but I do want to talk about it. So because this is important. Yeah. And I've been feeling this a bit lately with a few people as well. And, you know, it's like, I'm wrong. So I give a psychic prediction and I'm wrong. I share a, you know, like a world prediction. And so, like, you know, I think, so I posted, some of you might have seen it, some of you might not. Doesn't matter. But the point is that, so I posted the other day, I don't know, maybe it was last week, out of time. So there was like a COVID case in Brisbane or something. And then I was like, well, I can feel we're on the verge of a big lockdown. And to be honest, I've been waiting for that, you know, here in Queensland. Since I got back from Victoria, I was just like, hey, like, when's it coming? I just assumed we're going into a big lockdown like Victoria did, right? 6 months or whatever it was. But it hasn't happened yet. And I've just been waiting for it. And then like we had a COVID case and I was like, well, are we going on lockdown now? Like, you know, and it still hasn't happened. Anyway, I posted that post, you know, the other week, last week or something. And then like some woman like commented, she's like, oh, well, you've been saying that since like you said in February we were going to go into a big lockdown. And then you know, and just like your like world prediction that Oprah was going to die in March or May was wrong. And I was just like, who the fuck's this woman? Never seen her name before, never seen her comment on any of my stuff, never seen her like any of my stuff, never seen her in any of my stuff. I like check profile, we're not even friends. I'm like, who the fuck is this woman? Like, she's obviously watching everything I'm doing, listening to everything, because that world prediction was long. Or it was a post, I think, actually. And it was just like, it was just made me laugh. I was just like, oh my God, like, you know, here you are, like, I don't even know who you are, and yet you're obviously watching everything that I do. And then like, and I was just like laughing about it, and she's like, oh, I didn't mean to offend you, and I wasn't being mean. And I'm like, I didn't even reply to it, right? But I was just like, she's like, you don't need to be mean, Hannah. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was just like, oh my God, you know. And anyway, I went back to look at the comments, I don't know, yesterday or something, and I see that she's actually like deleted the thread, and I'm like, come on. And so what's really interesting about that, obviously I was processing that because I was like, man, I don't even know that woman. We're not friends. I've never seen her in any of my comments or anything, or, you know, whatever. And it was just interesting because as I was processing it, I was like, oh yeah, because I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten that I'd put that prediction. Well, I know I did the prediction, but that I'd said that Oprah Winfrey was going to possibly die in like March or May. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I said that, didn't I? I was like, yeah, well, that hasn't happened yet. And what's interesting to me is that as I was processing it, I was like, well, for me, I don't feel I'm wrong. Now, you might be like, well, Hannah, you're wrong because you said that she's going to die and she's still alive. And I'm like, when I give a prediction, when I intuitively feel something, I don't feel I'm ever wrong. And this is the thing about, in a sense of, and you might be like, Hannah, you said she was going to die and she's still alive. And I'm like, well, as far as we know, she's still alive, right? There's a lot of things behind the scenes we don't know about. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm just saying, and at the same time, what came through was I was like, do you know what? It's not about the prediction. It's not about whether you're right or wrong. It's whether you trust your intuition to step up and actually trust, like follow through with what you're being guided to do. Say, speak, turn up, give predictions, not give predictions, or the point, the actual thing here is, do you actually have the fucking balls to stand up and trust what you're being guided to say? Do you actually trust your intuition enough to stand up and give the predictions and give the intuitive guidance and give the mediumship messages and actually follow through with your intuition? Because you know what? It's never about the prediction. It's never about the message you're passing on. The actual thing it's about is the relationship you have with yourself and your intuition and what you're being guided to do in your life purpose. Now, I would give those dates that I was given, right? The March and the May, another 18 months, right? Let's look at it from an 18-month timeline, right? Because I'm like, yeah, she hasn't died yet. And it's interesting because the other thing that came to mind was like, you know, if I look at the prediction that I was given intuitively in February 2020, last year, when before Australia went on lockdown, right? It was like February, and I kept getting the vision of men in big white puffy suits coming around to force vaccinate us in our house. Now, I didn't tell anybody about that vision. Nobody. I didn't tell anybody. Why? Because I was like, as if I'm going to tell people that. But that vision, right? This is trusting your intuition. If Spirit didn't give me that vision, I would have never packed up the car with my daughter and all our animals and gone on a 5-month road trip, because there was no way I was going to be in lockdown in our suburb, especially if they were coming around in big white puffy suits to force vaccinate us. Like, we're fucking out of there. Now, reflecting on that, and it's interesting because my cleaner a few weeks ago, or whatever it was, she's like, well, that didn't happen. And in myself, I'm like, yet, right? I'm like, I'm always ahead of my times. If my timelines are off, I'm never wrong. It's just the timing is off, right? Now, even last year when we were on that road trip, and eventually I came out and said the reason I got in the car was because I had that vision. And then not long after that, people were like, Hannah, look at this video. Like, it was somewhere overseas, but that was what was happening. And now I see maybe that was just propaganda. But anyway, I was just like, I'm never wrong. It's just that the timing might be off. And it's not, I'm here saying, I'm always right and I'm like this thing. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a sense of trusting my intuition that deeply that I know I'm never wrong. Even if I'm doing a psychic reading or a mediumship reading and that person's like, that doesn't make sense to me. You're wrong, Hannah. They don't say that, but I can feel it, right? And so with that sense, right, what happens is I'm like, in myself, I know that the information will come later, or I'm picking up a deeper message, or I want to say relaying the message incorrectly. Like, it's something that they're not quite aware of yet. Like, it's not that I'm wrong. It's that something is maybe off in the timeline or something off like that. So Leanne said as well, just here now, she said, well, I crossed someone's soul over with others a couple of years ago, but that person is still alive. So I want to say that when we feel like somebody is going to die, what I've learned with that, and this is again like interpreting your intuition, again, this is where trusting intuition, and what we teach in there is how you understand your intuition, what it's speaking to you, what it's relaying to you, etc., etc. Sorry, I went off. And it needs to go off. I'm just getting a message that oven needs to go off because what's cooking needs to get turned off. Yeah. So when we get the intuition that somebody is going to die and they don't die, and we're like, oh, I was wrong, right? We start to doubt our intuition. This is the thing where we're just like, and then we don't share messages again and all that stuff. So the thing about, so a relationship dying is that what I've come to understand is if the person doesn't die, what has happened is that the relationship with that person has died, or an aspect of that relationship has died. Not necessarily the person, but maybe the relationship dynamic has changed, and so that relationship has died. Or if it's like, between two people and they're like, well, that person's going to die. Well, it's like the relationship has died. The relationship dynamic has died. That's what I've really learned about that sort of a message, for sure, because I've seen it a couple of times now. So for example, even in February last year, I did get the message as well that my dad was going to die. And I was like, fuck, I better actually go as well, because, you know, I think it was January actually. And I kept getting that message. I'm like, this is going to be the last time that I see dad. That was actually the message, not that he was going to die. It was like, I kept getting the message, it'll be the last time that I see dad. And I was like, fuck, what does that mean? I better go, right? And so when I, you know, went, and obviously he's still alive and kicking, and like, I was like deciphering that, and I was like, but actually what happened, not at that point in February, but about 5 or 6 months later, our relationship died, in a sense of like the fantasy bond inner child looking up to daddy relationship that I didn't even realize was still there, that died. So it was very interesting, right? And so, yeah, so I've, and then I've seen it a couple of times with other people as well. They've got that message, or we've sensed it in a session, and they actually haven't died, but the relationship between them has completely changed. So it's interesting, right? When we're getting all these different, you know, messages and how we interpret them and what they mean and stuff, like, it's so important, yeah. And so Gayan says, yes, I heard that too. Sometimes psychics get the timing confused because there's so much going on, and there's so many different timelines. So I've just come out of filming the ear chakra consciousness, right? And when we look at timelines, when we get to the ear chakra consciousness, they are no longer lines. And I even feel this is where we are collectively as well. They're not timelines anymore. They're not lines, they're dots. And we're literally jumping from reality to reality. They're not even like on a timeline anymore. Like, how many people have been feeling weird about time lately? Like over the past 5 years even, time has just felt different. It's weird. Behind time, in front of time, time's going fast. Like, wow, is it the middle of the year already? Like, just time has changed. Would you agree, over the last 5 years or so? Because we're not in timelines anymore, we're in dots. And so now it's like, you know, keeping up with your intuitive guidance around also the timelines. I mean, I didn't do that with the prediction, right? But that's what I heard at that time. And this is the other thing, that nothing's set in stone. Like, you know, if people come to me for a psychic reading, the first thing, and when I first came online, my biggest thing harping on about was like, I don't do predictions. I don't tell the future, is what I said. I don't tell the future, because the future is not set in stone, right? It is not set in stone. What happens tomorrow depends on the actions that you take today, right? Like, it's the biggest thing, yeah? So, and as I always say, if ever I say anything, tune into what your intuition is giving you guidance on it about, not what I say, because it might be wrong or different. It's like, you know, it's just coming through me. Does it resonate with you? Yes, no, don't, like, tune in for yourself, right? It's like, I say that with everything. That's why we trust our intuition, right? All right. So Leanne says, I'm pretty sure it will before the 29th of the 6th. They want to extend the SOE. We did go into a lockdown in March. That's how they extended it to June. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And that's what I was feeling. I'm like, because I kept getting June as well. So, yeah. Hayley said, but you also said something about interpretation regarding the Oprah prediction as well. And yeah, and that's the thing, right? In a sense of like, because I said it was like Oprah and her legacy will die or something. And I was like, well, I don't know what that means. That could have many interpretations, right? And then also April says here too, part of her spirit may have died. Yes. Because the other thing is interesting, because when I first heard that prediction in my head, I was just like, I'm not going to fucking say that. Like, I literally was like, no. Anyway, so the first thing I did was Google about Oprah Winfrey's health. Her health. I think I might have just put Oprah Winfrey's health status or whatever. Oh my goodness, my words. Getting hungry. And I've been filming all afternoon for Ear Chakra Consciousness. So yeah, her health status. And in October, I think it was October, she ended up being in hospital for pneumonia. Which I can't remember what she said, but I think it was about her mother's death or something. I don't know. Or I don't know, it was something. And I was like, oh, did her mum, because pneumonia is just grief that someone hasn't felt. And this is the thing, every physical ailment always comes back to this, right? And if you hear someone with a physical ailment, if you tune in deeper, you understand what's going on for them very quickly. Again, this is what we teach in Trust Intuition, right? This is how we become intuitive and a healer and all that sort of stuff. Put all the pieces together. And so I was like, oh, well, that's 6 months from when she had pneumonia. I'm like, well, that could be possible, right? And this is why I'm like, let's look at these timelines and just, you know, I'm just keeping an eye on things, of course. So plus the prediction is not always fact because it's a future thing, which is always changing. Exactly. Yeah. So some point she should have died during that time. Something had changed, so she's still here, well and alive. Yeah. And that's the thing, we can pick up different timelines of, you know, things. And when I say timelines, I mean, you know, the future's not set in stone. I mean, if she was sick and unhealthy, maybe she went on a big, you know, health kick or something and got really healthy, well then she's not going to die then, is she? And there's the future is not set in stone. It depends on what action you take today. So even if you get a health diagnosis and the doctor says you're going to die, well, if your strength of self and willingness and all those things and all the things you do to actually change your reality from that moment, that's just some doctor's thing. That's not what your reality is, because you're the only one that creates that, right? So yes, timing. Yes, time's been weird. Yes, time has changed since 2016. Yes, definitely the past few years, it definitely has, for sure. So Leanne says Oprah's dead to me after all I've heard. Yes, well, this is the thing. Like, are they clones or are they people? And it makes you question, right? We don't really know. At the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know. Hey Leah, the first part of the live stream might really help you with the energy update. And yes, there's lots of parts dying through these eclipses. Lots of parts of us die. Lots of past lives are released. Lots of old traumas come up, and we're leading into the full moon coming up. So it might get a little bit more intense. And then I feel like it'll ease off around like sort of mid-July-ish, you know, and just feel like we can have a breather for a bit. So there is the pieces that I wanted to share around why I'm going crazy. Apparently I was wrong, and an energy update, and a huge reminder to trust yourself and understand that even if you feel like you're chaotic, in emotional, like complete mess, right? You are feeling, you are healing and feeling, you are not suppressing. And that keeps you healthy. That keeps you conscious and gives you an emotional intelligence, because every time you do that, you are training yourself to understand what you're going through. And then reality will show you, your intuition will show you all these pieces, and you strengthen your sense of self over and over and over again. So trust your intuition. Coming up. So Elizabeth Prue said that post-eclipse is worse energetically. Yeah. So post-eclipse. So that's why I feel like that after. So we've got the eclipse again coming up. I think it's the tail end of the eclipses on the full moon next week, and then that's why, you know, so another couple of weeks it's gonna tail off. So yes, so what was I saying? Yes, so trust intuition starts in a couple of weeks. It's getting closer, and this is the first time that I've ever run it as a 10-week live training, so I'm a little bit excited because I first created Trust Intuition in 2016, and now we're doing it as a 10-week live training, which if you can feel the energy coming through and off this live stream or anything that I'm doing recently, especially now I'm off a step back up, I'm like, oh my God, like total transformation. And I'm really excited to bring Trust Intuition through as a 10-week live training that starts on the 5th of July. So if you want to work through your trauma, if you want to understand all the ins and outs and intricacies of really putting all the pieces together, and then also to become a certified intuitive healer, which is worldwide, internationally accredited through IICT, then this is the time for this. I do not know that I'm going to hold it as a 10-week live training each year, because it's a big energy, it's a big deal. So if you're considering it, this would be the year, because I just don't know that I'm going to run it as a live training again. Yes, Leanne's excited for Trust Intuition Live. Yes, so am I. I can feel it, and I'm just so, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be next level what's coming through. I think the content's going to be upgraded with the live trainings, with what channels through in these moments. So yeah, really, really excited. So Leanne says, I wish it was over and makes me feel like I'm going insane. I'm too sensitive for this shit. Yes. So in Trust the Intuition, we learn how to harness our sensitivity and channel it so we don't get so flawed. And I was even filming in the ear chakra consciousness and just saying, like, you know, with what I've been through and what I've shifted through, and what we move through when we release the trauma and stuff from our system, when we unplug from that dark grid, that is where we don't feel so exhausted all the time. You know, like if I look back over the past few years, like I don't feel exhausted like I used to. And that's a really big deal. You know, I used to just be so exhausted and drained all the time. And then these days I'm like, wow, I don't feel that anymore. That's the fucking celebration. I'm like, this is the work that I've done, you know, and this is what I teach and trust intuition. Because if we're carrying all that trauma, we're going to repeat the patterns, we're going to attract the same situations, and then we're also going to just feel damn exhausted because everything is just weighing us down and we don't need to anymore. This is the time to rise. This is the time to reclaim your power. Trust intuition is based in the solar plexus. It is about reclaiming yourself, your whole self, to feel empowered and to trust your intuition based in the solar plexus so that you can do what you were born to do, be here on this earth, empowered with energy, and be the healer that you were born to be, because you help people anyway. You might as well be getting paid for it. And with the way our world's going, this is the career that is going to be needed in the future. So I shall see you all very soon. The link is in the title of this live stream, or you can find it on my page or on my website, and I shall see you really soon. I love you. Bye.